Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to the Restoring Promise Initiative's convening, championing dignity, addressing harm, and improving prison culture through anti-racism. My name is Clinique Chapman, and I'm an Associate Director with the Restoring Promise Initiative. As Imani Joy Samuels, a champion of rest and mindfulness, recently stated on Indigenous Peoples Day, there is so much trauma embedded in the soil. The soil of this country is what she was referring to. The trauma and the harm is rooted so deep within and saturates every system in this country, especially our prison systems. The way we treat those who are incarcerated is a direct reflection. It is literally a mirror of this country's reluctance to acknowledge the roots of its fruit, fruit that shows up in the US as leading the world in locking up our own people, inhumane prison conditions, and deep disparities directly impacting Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities across this country. So I asked this question of everyone tuned in to this virtual convening, and I'm actually kind of chuckling to myself because if we were in a space together, which I really wish we could be, but if we were in a space together, I'd say, you in the back, you over there, you to my left, you to my right, talk to your neighbor, ask them, what happens when we focus on healing instead of punishment? What happens if our country's correction system intentionally created space for and prioritized healing? I ask you to sit with those questions today as we journey through this convening together. We are so honored you are joining Restoring Promises convening today as we diagnose our problems and discuss solutions that lead to healthier, more resilient lives for people impacted by our prison system. We believe in healing because healing really is a remedy. Healing, accountability to self and community by way of anti-racist practices, policies, and approaches. We're on a journey. We're in this together with you all to drastically shift the culture within prisons. And we know, Restoring Promise, we know that our transformation efforts cannot be contained within those prison walls. Thank you for embracing the possibilities that healing and true accountability can provide. And thank you for being a part of necessary and very courageous conversations. So, Restoring Promise, what do? We work to disrupt the prison system by creating alternative housing units grounded in dignity for young adults, one prison system at a time. In Restoring Promise units, young adults are coached by the mentors who are incarcerated people over the age of 25 years old, who help the young person realize their potential and their full purpose in life. We work with prisons across the country to replace, just get rid of, a punishing correctional culture rooted in our country's history of racism and white supremacy. And we replace that with healing, race equity, restorative justice, and family partnership. All of our work is done in collaboration with, keyword is with, the people most impacted by prison, the incarcerated people and the correction staff. And speaking of correction staff, it would be just an honor to give moment and space right now to give an extra warm hello, warm welcome to our site partners joining us from, I'm going to list it off, get ready. We have Connecticut Department of Corrections. We have MSO Jail in Massachusetts. We have South Carolina Department of Corrections, Idaho, Colorado, and North Dakota Department of Corrections joining us here. You all are doing an honorable job on this path with us to champion dignity for those who are incarcerated. Today, we not only have correction staff, though, we have, for the first time in Restoring Promise history, during our convening, we had men and women who are currently incarcerated joining us from across our 6 sites. And we are also joined by men from the DC Department of Corrections as well. We are grateful that you all are here with us. And really, it is you all and it's your families who keep me, who keep us, our team, those of us in this advocacy, in this legislative, in this reform space. It keeps us passionate. It keeps us committed to this work every single day. And so we thank you for allowing us to work alongside you in reforming these spaces. Today, we will hear from an awesome lineup of experts. We will talk about how mass incarceration has picked up where slavery has left off, separating families and dehumanizing and traumatizing the descendants of the enslaved and Indigenous people, and how we move forward. Let's move that needle together. Let's move forward with creating lasting change through courageous conversations. We will walk through how accountability and healing can even exist in prisons. And we will then hear how and why improving prison conditions is essential and pressing. And so before we dive into this awesome meeting that we have for you all today, I'd like to give a few housekeeping and tech notes for you all. In this virtual space, we know that, things may happen. And so give us grace, but also tap in if you need us to assist you in any way. And so a few things. Number one, we are extremely interested in engaging with you. And so we understand that, today you may hear some things, you may see some things, you may feel some things, right? That you need to process, and you may need to ask an extra question or just get some clarity. So we want to hear that from you. Place your questions in the chat box, and Restoring Promise Associate Director Matthew Lowen and Program Associate Brittany Brown will ensure that we get your questions answered throughout this day. Also, there'll be updates and announcements, alerts that you'll see pop up on your Socio dashboard. So on Socio, our screen is right here. There's like a left-hand kind of dashboard that will help you kind of be a guide to the next room or the agenda item during the day. Be sure to, if there's an update or alert, to read that as you're going throughout the day. And as an attendee, you can request to chat with one another. So one by one, you can send communication requests, and we really do highly encourage networking throughout the day. And lastly, if we can get that engagement started by dropping your name and where you are joining us from in the chat box. I see that some folks have already started. Let's get your name, where you're from, what you're hoping to learn maybe today. We really want to see that engagement. Since we can't be in space with each other and embrace each other today, we want to make sure that we're doing as much as we can in this virtual space. And so I'd like to pass the mic over now to John Pineda, Deputy Director of MILPA, and Ryan Shanahan, Initiative Director at the Vera Institute of Justice, to properly greet you all and welcome you into this space. John and Ryan, you have the mic now.
All right, I got it to work. It's very good. We did a little tech run this morning. I'm glad to see that everything is functioning properly. Good morning, buenos dias, everybody. To folks who may be in different time zones, good afternoon, buenas tardes. We just wanted to start things off in a very good way and welcome everybody into this space. Thank you, Clinique, so much for your words. And again, like Clinique said, we're inviting you in this time right now to go ahead and bring your full selves in. Your lineage from your respective areas, the different parts of yourself, the different circles that you're a part of, and come into this space in a good way. We want to acknowledge all the different parts of this turtle island that we inhabit. Like Clinique said, we want to also acknowledge those whose backs this country was built upon. Those who were enslaved, those who had to suffer cultural genocide, those who went through some of the most atrocious acts that have been committed in the world. And it's going to be a very difficult conversation, but I also want to remind people that it's okay too. It's okay for us to have these difficult conversations and for us to struggle. There can be no progress without struggle. And each and every one of us has our own individual struggles that we're going to navigate inside of this space. So once again, we thank you for your time, your presence, not only your presence, but your participation. And we say that word very intentionally because we're hoping to not only have you all in this space and have you present, but have you actually participatory as well too. And have you all going through this journey with us, experiencing things, but also being vocal and also checking your body too. Where are you experiencing all this stuff at? It's a huge part. We got to get into that somatic work. While we're talking about cultural healing and we're talking about restoration, we got to be mindful and talk about our bodies as well too. So with that said, I just want to take a brief moment and invite everybody to just, kind of close your eyes really quickly and just take a couple breaths for me. Ideally, we'll take 4 of these breaths. And I'm really hoping that as we take these breaths, you think about those 4 corners of the earth, the 4 elements that make up our existence. Restoring Promises 4 values, and as that's going, or as we're doing that, I have some smoke going right here too. And I just wanted to start things off in a good way, put some sage out there for you all. And also, give a little bit of this turkey feather to you all. They say, I was explained that this turkey feather was a grounding bird, and I'm hoping that you all get that energy of being grounded while you're inside of this space. And that if at any point in time you find yourself losing that grounding, that you can reach out to somebody else, You know, we're going to be here with you throughout this problem. I'm sorry I didn't even introduce myself properly. My name is John Pineda. I'm the Deputy Director of MILPA. MILPA stands for Motivating Individual Leadership for Public Advancement. We're a community-based organization located in Salinas, California, focused on culture, consciousness, and movement building with the goal to cultivate change makers for the next 7 generations. We partnered with Vera for the Restoring Promise Initiative. Clinique explained a little bit about the Restoring Promise Initiative. Now I'll pass it over to my colleague Ryan so she could explain a little bit maybe about Vera and a little bit about our partnership. Thank you all so much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan. I'll keep my comments short, but I'm just so happy to share this space with you and be in community with you, even though it's virtual. A special shout out to all of our Restoring Promise sites, and for the first time ever, the folks behind the walls who are incarcerated, who are able to join us to share their knowledge and to learn with us. The Vera Institute of Justice, we're powered by hundreds of advocates, activists, and researchers working to transform the criminal, legal, and immigration systems until they're fair for all. Founded in 1961 to advocate for alternatives to money bail in New York City, Vera is now a national organization that partners with impacted communities and government leaders for change. We develop just anti-racist solutions so that money doesn't determine freedom. Fewer people are in jails, prisons, and immigration detention, and everyone is treated with dignity, a particular focus for today's convening. Vera has offices in Washington, D.C., New Orleans, and Los Angeles, and our headquarters are in the best place ever, Brooklyn, New York, where I'm calling in from. Obviously not the office, because we don't yet have beds in our offices. I'm calling in from down the street in my own bedroom. But thank you again for being with us here today. And I want to thank John Pineda and MILPA. This is, we see ourselves as two organizations, but one team with a singular focus to bring human dignity to behind prison walls so that the 2.2 million folks who are behind bars get the human dignity that they deserve. And so we'll keep fighting that, and I'm going to pass it back to John Pineda.
Thank you again, Ryan. So before we head into this great panel that we have and a great day that we have for you all and hand it back on over to Clinique, there was a quote that I wanted to share with you all. And this quote, they say, they titled it a Pueblo prayer, right? Lord knows if that was what a prayer was. Our elders tell us that there was no word for like ceremony, for prayer, for spirit. It was just like a way of life. It was just you waking up and doing the things that you did. And these things, obviously, they were going to go to where they needed to go. So I'll just share this with you really quickly. It's titled, Hold On. Hold on to what is good, even if it's a handful of earth. Hold on to what you believe, even if it's a tree that stands by itself. Hold on to what you must do, even if it's a long way from here. Hold on to your life, even if it's easier to let go. Hold on to my hand, even if someday I'll be away from you. And we share that once again because we want to let you all know and remind you that we're alongside of you with this, within this journey, and that old saying like, hey, reach out and touch somebody. When things get difficult, you have a whole cohort of people right here that you could reach out and touch, that you can lean on, that we could help figure this out together. We're not saying we have all the answers. We know we may make mistakes ourselves too at times, but we're human beings and we're all here to try to figure things out for the greater good, for the greater purpose. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on over back to Clinique. Thank you all. Palabra.
Feel like a really abstract idea. So here's this team of people. Some of them work at Vera, some of them work at MILPA, and they're trying to change prison conditions. And what does that look like? And so I want to just spend a few minutes to try to bring it down to the concrete. And I'll tell you that, part of this stems from the generous belief that Nick Turner had in me and in John Pineda many years ago to after we came back from a trip to Germany, where we were inspired and we saw that prison conditions could be organized around human dignity. And why weren't we paying attention to prison conditions here? As folks are fighting to get people to decarcerate, to get states to decarcerate and to get people out, what do we do for the 2.2 million people who are behind bars? And so we started in Connecticut. So shout out to our folks in Connecticut with a men's maximum security prison. And the way that it looks is that we basically take over a housing unit and we ask people to tell us, like, what would a prison culture look like if it was rooted in human dignity. And the people that we ask are the most important people. And those are the folks who are incarcerated in prison. So young adults and folks serving really long sentences and the line staff. So they help us organize and think this through. It's a completely collaborative process. And MILPA and Vera, through Restoring Promise, we see ourselves as people who facilitate those conversations. So sometimes I feel like I'm just a megaphone taking information from incarcerated people and their family members and sharing it with DOC directors and line staff and vice versa. And so through this process that's intentional and deliberate and centering the experiences of line staff, corrections officers, and incarcerated people, we pilot a brand new housing unit. We retrain correctional officers. We train people who are serving long sentences to serve as mentors to young adults. Our focus right now is on people 18 to 25, because we really believe that that is where we're going to have just an incredible impact on issues like mass incarceration, public safety, race equity, and the safety for everyone in prison. And you can go to our website, www.restoringpromise.vera.org, for more information about why those 4 areas are so critical for that young adult age group. So one of the things I want to just impart on you is the importance of autonomy